Thanks for that. Really, really interesting. So lots of different takes there on what we might regard as the basic sets of competences and knowledge bases. And interesting, it's a very different kind of way of communicating that as well in terms of the testimonial kind of style. So some of the things that I noticed that crossed over quite substantially. One is around culture and culture change and some of the challenges. I think you kind of hit the nail on the head there. Okay, so we're going to segue from that into a talk from Sally, and I've kind of deliberately thought about change because you come from a change management background, so that's a really kind of unique set of experiences that you're bringing to the third sector table. So what I'm going to do is just hand over directly to Sally, and if you'd like to just present something on your findings from the gathering.
Thank you. I've been given 15 minutes and I'm not going to just sort of talk 15 minutes, so please stop me, ask me questions, and I'm going to rattle through just very briefly what SCVO is, what our work is around social inclusion, digital inclusion, some of the key stats around Scotland around digital inclusion, and then what we're doing to address some of that, and then sort of finish up encapsulating with the stuff that we did at the gathering earlier this year. It feels like a long time ago. So SCVO is Scottish Council for Voluntary Organisations. As our title suggests, we are Scotland-wide, and we focus around supporting social inclusion and the development of civil society. We do that through third sector organisations. Third sector organisations being charities, community organisations, voluntary groups, those registered with OSCR, those not registered with OSCR. And the services we provide and the support that we give, I kind of sort of address it in terms of it's really pretty much from ABBA to Zappa. So lots of policy work there, but also some really practical support that we give to individual and collective organisations. So really the whole gamut. The team that I work with is our digital directorate, which causes problems immediately because everybody has an entirely different perspective and interpretation on digital. But where we focus is around basic digital skills for individuals and organisations. 3 parts to the work that we do. The first part is around participation. So that's ensuring that everybody across Scotland has what are an identified set of 5 basic digital skills to get online, to live in 21st century society. Almost 1 million people in Scotland don't have those skills. So when we're talking about a population of just over 5, that's a significant chunk. We know that those people are older, poorer, and tend to have some form of disability. And so that not only impacts on their quality of social life, but also on the economy of Scotland. The second part of our work is focused on third sector organisations, and we call that evolution. We very specifically term that evolution because for a lot of organisations, and in Scotland they are mainly smaller third sector organisations, they like things to move quite organically, small steps. Using a word like transformation will just put organisations off, full stop. So we talk about evolution, working towards transformation, and try and get that in there, that we needed to make a step change. 50% of organisations within the third sector don't use digital to the full effect that they could. I'll park the third element of what we do because that's sort of stretching organisations. The reason that we hold the sort of strategic element of this agenda is that there's a huge crossover between people who don't have basic digital skills. They tend to be using the services of third sector organisations and charities. So if we can start at both ends of those, then actually we can scale and gain traction, and hopefully our ambition is to sort of start tackling these problems really quickly and get a real momentum shift going. So what do we do? We fund, and we're currently at funding 126 organisations across the whole of Scotland, network of organisations, to help people get online and develop those 5 basic digital skills. And we're doing that for 2 reasons. One, to get lots of activity out there, but also to find out what works. And that collection of data and that analysis of data is really, really important to us. And what we're finding out so far is that what works are hyperlocal interventions. And by hyperlocal, we mean organisations which are really deeply embedded within a community, tend to be smaller, tend to be more fleet of foot and agile, and able to meet a multitude of problems that someone may be presenting with. We also are finding that the way to sustainability is embedding passing on of basic digital skills in day-to-day work. So if there's an organisation which is focused on, let's talk about an older people's luncheon club, actually introducing working with some sort of device on a sort of side-by-side basis as part of that, so whatever discussion that is the way in which people are finding the barrier breakdown much more accessible. So we're pretty much stopping talking about having basic digital skills classes. That actually it is looking at how that's embedded. What you're doing there is ensuring that staff have basic digital skills, because what is being reported, and this is across the piece, this is not just the third sector, is people overestimate their own levels of basic digital skills. And when we're thinking about personal data that's actually we're slinging into these devices every hour of every day, and the security of that, that's a real element across the work that we do. The other element which fits into our evolution part of the strategy is quite a difficult one for me, because it's top down, and what we found is that actually taking away some leaders and helping to address their confidence and knowledge around digital tools and technologies and data, what's out there around change management, is a real unblocker. We could start with, in the middle of the organisation, we could start with user needs. Actually, there needs to be a lot of freeing up from the top for people to be curious and to start having a confidence to explore. Of the people that we've had go through our leadership programme, which we're coming up to 40 chief executives now, one of the first things that they're actually starting to question is, why the hell are we using Microsoft? And why the hell are we tying people down to having a desktop and that really static ways of working, when more and more we have volunteers and members of staff who are out and about across the country. We need them to be really efficient and effective in what they're doing. Oh God, let's just give them a handheld device and a bit of trust. And then we're starting to see those things really unblock and savings to be made. So the gathering was a little bit of a culmination and a showcase of everything that we do. For those of you that don't know, the gathering is a 2-day trade fair for third sector organisations at SECC in February every year. We took over a whole of the day, and a session around leadership where we brought together third sector, public and private sector leaders, talking about their own journeys and having a real conversation. We had about 200 people in the room having that conversation, which was incredibly valuable. All of these were filmed, so they're there for others to go and, you know, sort of take some bits and pieces from. But the thing there in the leadership was the lessons that came out of that were the complementarity across sectors, and that actually this was something that everybody was really struggling with. You don't have to know everything about digital, and you don't need to be a digital leader. You just need to be curious and know what questions need to be asked. And also in some cases, just have the balls to challenge somebody else, particularly IT departments. And that needs not to be edited out, that needs to definitely stay in. There's a huge amount of risk out there in IT departments. I love that everybody's laughing, because it's so true, it resonates with all of us. You know, I know through just, you know, my own day-to-day work, went to my IT department and said, what I'd really like to use in our team is Slack. And they went, no. You have this little thing, which is on Salesforce, which will do the job just as well. I thought, no, I won't. So I went back, got all the team to install Slack, and 3 months later when they found out we were using it and how valuable it was kind of like, oh, all right then. But that's a real barrier for people to get over.
Just finding that it's easier to ask for forgiveness than it is for permission. That's sort of my story of
it's
easier to ask for forgiveness than it is to get the permission.
It's really great that you say that. We have a huge whiteboard in our office, and across the top, rule number 1, ask for forgiveness, not for permission. Rule number 2 is there's always cake in the kitchen. But actually changing that mindset is much more difficult than it seems, because there are always huge amounts of reasons not to, in terms of we're the experts and it's too risky and we can't support you to do that and we don't know where your data is, and oh my God, you're giving people freedom and you won't need us. But part of the leadership programme is just breaking those barriers down and going, well, yeah, but actually in terms of getting our work done and supporting people, we need to be a little bit less risk averse. And also, you know, moving away from, as I say, you know, sort of people and organisations being spread across the whole of the country, or in, you know, across different locale tools, you know, makes that team building and that team working and sharing just so much easier, and so that we can get on with lots of face-to-face work. So we had a fantastic debate, or that leadership debate, which was, what do we need to do to free people up? The bit that I've not talked about is our innovation strand, which is quite a small strand, but that's pushing organisations out to collaborate more, to remove a reliance on agencies, but also to understand what are the skills that people need within the workforce. And it's not having that line in a job description, which is, must be confident with Microsoft Office. It is around curiosity and analytical skills, and a whole different set of digital skills, and that's something that we're trying to push out within the innovation strand. The afternoon was amazing. It was a real practical session, and we managed to pull together 24 round tables of everything from user approach to service design, tools, techniques. I think we had some of the Mac labs there. We also had people from Slack and Appearin and Trello, just to expose colleagues to what tools, techniques there were out there, so that they could start thinking differently about how to embed the culture change within their organisation. So we had Sky Scanner there who were talking about different methods of agile working, something that's being promoted very much within the sector. And just getting across through all of this is about culture change. This isn't about bits of kit and apps. It's about people, and it's about changing their hearts and minds and giving them the skills to be able to do that, so that we can spend face-to-face time with people who really do need that more than anything else, and developing those. Just in conclusion, going back to the leaders, last November we had about 100 leaders in a room on St Vincent Street, because our first leadership programme had developed a call to action for the third sector, which was around creating a digitally confident third sector. The top thing that they all came up with was around, this is about culture change. Take everything else out of it, this is about culture change, and this is what we've got to do and what we've got to focus on.
Oh.
So, skip round us.
Really useful insight into your work and what's going on, and also a really useful summary of some of the things that we've seen around the table as well. I'm quite mindful of the time, although we could open it up to questions if you don't mind, Sally.
Absolutely, yeah.
So if anybody has anything
I've got a question just about that last point you made about culture change, and I'm assuming that's because of the technological changes. Do you think that's a direct result? You know, the need to change the culture because we need to adapt to the technologies.
We need to adapt to technologies, but we also need to adapt to the technologies that the people that we care about and that we support are using. I've had a number of examples of conversations that have gone on where a support worker was sat with a notebook, huge amounts of notes, and then going back to the ranch and typing them all into a database, or handing them over and having them typed in. When questioned, well, why don't you just sit and pop them in a form and just share them with the person that you're supporting, get them to sign those off? Oh, well, they don't use technology. So the fact that they were sat next to you texting, and so breaking down some of those. So it is, people get really comfortable in the ways in which they work, and it's pushing people out of their comfort zone. And of course technology is disrupting that at a really rapid rate. And we're really comfortable about the ways in which we're working and don't necessarily put our sort of clients at the heart of what we do and what they're using and how we can, you know, sort of make those things most effective.
I wish technology would hurry up and disrupt email, because it's like
Slack.
a tyrannical
Slack.
ritual, you know. I think Slack is kind of the way forward. You're not the first person to note that in one of our workshops, actually.
There's a little band of us.
You did promise us a slide.
Well, it's created, but I need to start adding. Yes, I need to start adding people. So
I've heard one issue about Slack and some of these technologies, and it's to do with the privacy regulations, GDPR, which is my subject at the moment.
We're not allowed to use it.
And it's not compliant because of where the information's based.
That's
so
right. It's right at the moment, but that doesn't. It depends what you're putting on it.
Exactly.
So you could use it in a way that doesn't ever share sensitive or personal information on it. If it is just about communications that are not in the same,
But that's not. You could, but that's not the same as you will.
Don't.
So you need to have. So you said there was someone from Slack here in Scotland.
Yeah.
So that means that if they want the public sector to use it, they have to have servers here, and that's their problem as well.
Yeah. So you can see the hesitations from IT departments at the moment, but there must be ways and means to get around it if it's as good as it is.
It is, and it is. It depends on what you're using it for, and having the curiosity, the knowledge and the skills and the conversations around what we're going to use Slack for, what we're going to use email for, what we're actually going to phone people up for, because we don't want it written down in any way, shape or form. And people forget about those things, and it's taking the time. And I think one of the things about technology is that it does force you to take stock every so often and go, so where's our data held? What data are we collecting? What are we using this tool for? What are we using that tool for? Are we just completely overloaded with tools and we need to ditch some of them? And where are our clients and what are they using, and how can we more effectively engage with them, and do they understand the tools that they're using?
I think that will change over the next year or two as well with GDPR and those changes, but like that balance between trying new stuff and trying to change the way, but also then the risks associated with it as well. And I can imagine that, because I can see it from both sides, where I want to use the newer stuff, the easiest stuff, but I also think about it from the technological side and being like, but what if such and such happened or whatever. So it's hard to get that balance, and I think it's good to keep that in mind when we're talking about all the life and data stuff. Like we are kind of thinking it from this rosy point of view, and sort of wouldn't it be great if we could share more, we could use this more, but I suppose let's also think about how that could go wrong, and the effects that could have as well.
I agree.
Yeah.
And it's a balance that we need to visit on a regular basis. It's not a once and for all fix. We need to revisit it more rapidly.
Yeah.